Breaking news guys, character design is really important for a game like Fire Emblem. So important in fact that there are now several games in the series that feature generic enemies or NPCs that are so ridiculously well designed, the only way separating them from actual characters is a name. Generics with nothing generic about their looks, essentially. So I figured, let's take a look at how especially the modern Fire Emblem games spruce up their canon fodder. Because yeah, while red units are of course as old as the series itself, there isn't too much to say about pretty much all of them prior to the 3DS. The sprite-based games just don't show enough to really gush over. Here the focus should be more on one-chapter bosses that look way too cool to beat at, but that's a different topic. Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn do have clearer portraits of course, but to put it bluntly, Tellius has nothing worth highlighting here. They saw the word generic and took it very seriously. All of them, from villagers to enemy soldiers, just look incredibly basic. And so we start to look around with Awakening, which is a bit of a transitional period for this aspect of the series. There are still plenty of generics in this game that live up their name, especially when it comes to the design of their armor and outfits. If you then combine them with also a pretty usual face, then yeah, you end up with people that can never be more than generics, even if some are certainly designed to be more conventionally attractive than previous generics have been. Examples include Awakening's Dark Flyer and Myrmidon. Their faces are good looking enough to be main characters. Hell, this Myrmidon looks like Owain's long lost brother, but their outfits could do with a redesign if they want to hit that level, and their faces are not distinct enough to really set them apart. So in order for Awakening generics to really qualify, we need to look at either NPCs that do have striking and unique facial features, or super unique clothing, or preferably both. Like the generic enemy hero. His hair feels very custom, partly because it's blue of course, and partly because of his hairstyle. And it's like IS knew they had created a quite non-generic generic here, because his armor is barely even red. It has a very uncommon pinkish tone to it that not a single other generic enemy has. Not even the enemy Pegasus Knight, who looks as if she could be his sister with the exact same shade of hair hidden underneath her helmet. Her armor is certainly too generic to qualify though. Now another common flying class, they understood the assignment. Even though you can barely see their face, the armor design of Awakening's Wyvern Lord is absolute peak. They look like some strange gargoyle amphibian thing that fit right in Shadows of Valentia with all the weird monsters that the game has. I really like the horns too, they're a great touch. And they're one hell of a glow up from the regular Wyvern Rider, which has this weird beak-like mask in front of their face. It looks like they were called to war while they were right in the middle of putting their Donald Duck cosplay on. It's not a good look. I think it's supposed to be the mouth of a dragon, but it doesn't hit at all. However, the devs and artists must have realized that there was gold yet to be unearthed with these generics, because when Fates rolled around, they doubled down like I've rarely seen before. So many generic enemies and Fates have super unique and phenomenal designs, to the point I'm 100% serious when I say some of these are way more interesting design-wise than plenty of actual playable units we've seen over the course of the series. Take the Swordmaster. His fit is like a mix of Ryoma's armor with Xander's color scheme, a blend of Hoshido and Nor, and it ends up looking phenomenal. Sure, his face screams I'm not playable, but his armor deserved better. The Malik Knight decided to fix that problem by, just like Awakening's Wyvern Lord, hiding his face behind one of the sickest masks the series has ever seen. In Fogland, Edelgard makes you a general if you wear something this cool, but in Nor, it's just a standard outfit for any Malik Knight around. The Dark Knight is another Nor highlight, although here the mask is doing a lot of heavy lifting. The armor is nearly identical to what Leo wears. Hoshido has its fair share of mask-wearing cool guys too. What to think of the Oni Chieftain, for example? Sure, it may not look like a character that would ever join our side, but for a named enemy NPC this is more than good enough. I especially like the armor, that is at the same time also another head. It makes what is clearly a human look supernatural. Especially when you consider that the Valite version of this enemy actually has glowing eyes on both its mask and its body, as if the armor is alive. It's a super cool touch. Now, you cannot talk about Fates and its NPC designs without mentioning some of the most popular and often highlighted examples. First up, the Adventurer, who wears probably the most unique outfit I've ever seen in a Fire Emblem game. The cowboy hat, the lasso on his belt, the sly pose and the arrogant grin, yeah, this is a great design, and he knows it. I do feel like you can give some knocks against it though. For one, adventurers can use staves, but this design does not really convey that whatsoever. You could definitely subtract some points for that. Plus, I've often mentioned in this video that some enemies look distinct enough to be playable, and while that definitely applies to his outfit, his face is a little too hidden away to really qualify for that category. but that definitely doesn't apply to the female Norian villager, another popular generic. Well, a part of her notoriety certainly comes from the fact she's attractive, like the Dark Flyer from Awakening. I do think her design is a lot more unique though, it's not generic at all. The orange scarf really makes her a lot more striking, especially compared to most villagers who just wear brown rags, and while most villagers across the series have this helpless, I want to say weak vibe to them, this Norian woman feels like she has an attitude, a personality. She has a design that could have easily become playable without a single change. Same thing applies to the generic mates, who also have a certain disposition to them that gives them a lot more personality than the regular enemies. I especially really like the way the shadows of her hair obstruct her eyes. It feels like a key design detail that usually would be reserved for an actual character rather than an enemy. Obviously though, it helps her that Felicia basically wears the exact same outfit, so the outfit innately feels fitting, whereas most generics just wear bland armor. That similarities like that matter can also be seen very clearly with the Witch, a DLC enemy from Fates. Comically large head aside, this straight up just looks like an early design for, say, Sonya or Ivy. It could have easily been repurposed for a new DLC unit, and no one would have batted an eye. Let's continue on with Shadows of Valentia, which is often considered to be the game with the best art style, and I don't disagree. But does that translate to the generic enemies? Less than you think. Since this game fills a lot of battles with enemy monsters rather than humans, there are really not that many generics to choose from, and those that do exist are solid, but they're not as unique or special as what Fates had. It's more like Awakening standards. I do have a top 3 for you guys though, with the third place going to the Enemy Mage. It's nothing spectacular, but I do like the colors used here, and it feels like a good deviation from what you would expect most mages to look like. And is it me, or does this mage even look a little like Celica, like she could be related? For similar reasons, in second place we have the Bow Knight. Archers usually get shafted a bit when it comes to their enemy designs, with most of them being quite, well, generic. But Valentia's Bow Knight really goes all out. For the first time, it's the archers that actually look like they are high-ranked members of the army rather than random mercenaries. I mean, the Bow Knight basically wears a generic big red armor with then all these extra doodads on top, as if the generals are supposed to call them sir. But the number one best generic enemy design in Shadows of Valentia, according to yours truly at least, is the only one that really jumps out as something unique, which is the Sage. Back in Awakening, this class looked like your standard war priest, but Echoes takes things in an entirely new direction and takes on a Middle Eastern and North African inspiration. The turban and the kaftan are a great combo, and the color is probably not a coincidence either, as purple dyes used to be way harder to make back in those days and were a sign of royalty, or at least status. It's befitting of a promoted class and a valid reason to step away from the red or darker color schemes usually used by generics. Unfortunately, when we move from the 3DS to the Switch, I cannot conclude anything else but the fact that the peak days of generic enemy designs are over. Apparently, this step to higher quality models led to a sharp decrease in the uniqueness of enemy designs, and the decision to make portraits smaller and only cover the head makes it even harder for them to stand out. I do suspect this is partly on purpose though. After all, Three Houses prides itself in having you fight former allies and friends frequently throughout the story, and in that light, it helps if the soldiers they're commanding look a bit more generic. It helps the actual characters stand out. Especially since the character designs of Three Houses are not too flashy to begin with. I do have a few I want to highlight though, because Three Houses is very keen on giving enemies weird head accessories. Many classes have these weird hats that take up a lot of space and seem to be designed to hide their generic faces. Monks, mages and priests are definitely my least favorite though, their hats are a little too goofy for my taste, even if I get the idea as to show they're more scholars than fighters. The Trickster does have a nice hat, it's reminiscent of the Adventurer, but here it's the bright, almost clown-like color scheme that I really don't enjoy. Now, I would say Three Houses enemies are at their best when they wear full face masks. The Dark Knights have pretty sweet dragon masks, although I gotta say, I'm only now seeing this as a dragon, I thought it was a panther until now. The Mortal Savant has a mask similar to the Oni Chieftain from Fates, although his color scheme does make him stand out a lot less, and the female Warlock wears a hat that looks like she's going to a royal funeral or something. I like it, even if I question how battle ready it is. I also want to give some compliments to the generic warriors this time around, who brought back the Viking aesthetic that hadn't been seen since the GBA. I've always liked this look for warriors, it fits them. But my absolute favorite from Fodlan is the Dark Mage. After Awakening and Fates gave these guys outfits that even Farja would find too revealing, they went the complete opposite direction in Three Houses, now cloaking them in black robes and masking their face with a plague mask, so so you can't even see who you're facing. I've always been a fan of plague masks in fiction. It's such an unnerving yet realistic and cool design, so it fits dark mages to a T if you ask me. It's such a simple little addition to the black robes you immediately associate with the class, but it gives it an entirely new dimension. It's definitely my favorite. Now, ideally I would talk about Engage here, but unfortunately that is not really feasible. I suppose as a testament to how this game failed to capture the heart of the fanbase, I cannot find the portraits or models of the generic enemy units anywhere. Not even screenshots, no footage, nothing. I have played this game enough though to know we're not missing anything revolutionary here. While I would already consider Free Houses a step back from the 3DS games, Engage is genuinely the worst game in this department ever since Awakening started experimenting with it. I may not have a clear, full list of every single enemy so I can cleanly compare them and see if I'm missing anything, but from what I can tell, none of these enemies are worth highlighting, which is of course further troubled by the fact that so many of them are just corrupted. I did try to find out though why there are so few images to be found of the generic enemies, and from what I can tell, it is a result of this game ditching old school portraits in favor of just using the models instead. Apparently, these models for characters are based on portrait still, which is why those are available, but the enemies use their actual model rather than a still image, making this much harder to subtract from the game. At least, that's how I understand it. Maybe one of you knows more and can clarify further. But yeah, that's all. Anticlimactic end, I know. But I do want to know, what are your favorite generic enemy designs? Which did you wish were actual characters? Share it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing. And if you really want to support me, you can now become a channel member to get all kinds of fun perks and help me keep bringing these videos to your doorstep every week. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.